Hey, it's Ben here, and here we're going to have a quick look at how we create this effect using some of the tools in Photoshop. So we're going to move to the original image and begin with this single layer. So basically, in order to create this effect, we're going to be using, to begin with, the rectangle tool. So I'm going to click on my rectangle tool, and up at the top I'm going to change the fill color for this to light blue, which I found originally, I think, in the pastels colors here. So we're going to leave the stroke empty up at the top in the options toolbar. If you don't see the options toolbar, just go to Window and Options, and that will pop that toolbar up, and that will give you options for things like your shapes, for any type you're working on, and that type of thing. And then we're just going to draw out a simple rectangle. So once we've got the rectangle, we're going to jump to the Direct Selection tool. So across on the left here, you can see we've got the Path Selection tool. So I'm just clicking and holding on the arrow tool there below the Type tool, and we've got the Direct Selection tool. And I'm going to click away first, and then this will allow us to select individual points of our shape. When we do this, it's going to ask us if we want to change this to a regular path rather than a live shape. We're going to click yes, and basically now we can move around these different points and control them as we want to. I want to turn this into a triangle, so I'm going to right click here and just delete one of these anchor points, and this is how you can see we can get these kind of shattered glass style shards popping up. Now I'm going to jump back to the Move tool, and we're going to move this down, and then holding down Command or Control and tapping T, I can change the angle of this, I can change the scale of this, and then really all we're going to do is duplicate this layer and change the size of them to create a kind of chaotic shattered glass effect. So I'm going to hold down the Option key and drag this along, do Command and T, and then just move this, make it a little bit smaller. We'll have this one popping up here. And then again, hold down Option and duplicate the same one. Command and T. We'll make this one a bit bigger. Move it out. We can also distort the shape as well by holding down Shift. So we can make different shaped shards. Move these around. Again, hold down the Option key, Command and T, and move these around. Hit Enter. And then we can also, in order to speed up the kind of duplication process, come to our layers, and I've got my topmost layer selected here. I'm going to hold down Shift, and then I'm going to come to my panel and then hold down the Option key, and you can see here it's going to duplicate all of these all in one go. So then I can do Command and T and rotate this round, hit Enter. And then if I hold down Command and just click on the background, it's going to deselect all those layers. Now the way that you're selecting things will depend on whether you have Auto Select turned on up here or off. I like to keep it turned off, but basically that means I have to hold down Command or Control and just click on every layer before I can modify it. But it just means you've got that little bit of extra control. So we can hold down Control or Command, tap on one, and then move it, Command and T, and then rescale it. Hold down Shift to distort it, and then also rotate it here. So we can just keep building these up by moving through those same shortcuts. Command and click to select it, hold down Shift to distort it from the corner, and then we can just build this up. So we've got a nice few little shapes there. I'm going to select them all in the Layers panel, holding down Shift, and then I'm going to duplicate all of them just by dragging out, and then I'm going to do Command and T to rotate them all. I'm going to find a spot where they roughly fit within the gaps, then we'll move them around a little bit later. But what we can also do here is I have all these duplicated layers selected. If I come back to my rectangle tool now, I can select a different color. And because all these layers are selected, they're all these vector shapes, it's going to allow me to change the color of all of them. So I'm going to come to a different blue, and you can see we can change the color of this particular blue. And then again, I'll go back to my Move tool, hold down Command, click on the background, and then we'll just move these around again and start to add that little bit of randomization in the size of the shapes, trying to get these all sort of pointing towards the center of the camera here, but I'm not too worried about the specifics of it. We want a little bit of chaos in there. I'm going to move this one across here. It's going to create this kind of nice alternating pattern of these shapes. So lastly here, we're going to have a look at how we add this graphic drop shadow onto our image. So we're going to jump back to where we were. Here we're going to come to the layers panel, and I'm just going to select all these layers, and then we're going to use this option of grouping them. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to make a new group from these layers. And what this will allow us to do is to duplicate that whole set of layers really easily. So on this group one, I'm going to right click again, and I'm going to duplicate the group. Okay, and then we'll be using the group in the bottom to kind of add this drop shadow like effect. So I'm going to lock my topmost layer. It's just going to make it a bit easier to select and modify the layer underneath. So with this group one, I'm going to open it up, and we'll select all these layers, and I'm just going to change that to a different color. So I'm going to select my rectangle tool. We'll come up to fill, and from the dark color options here, I'm going to select this darker purple. Okay, we won't see any change yet because we haven't moved these, but with all these selected, I'm going to do Command and T and just rotate these a little bit. Once the rotation's finished, you'll see we've got these other shapes underneath. And then I'm going to go back to my Move tool. We're going to zoom in here, so Command and plus or Control and plus, and then I'm just going to hold down Command and tap in some empty space here, and then for each of these I'm going to do Command and click here, and we'll just do Command and T, and then we can just transform those so the 2 points meet there, and we'll just hold down Command again, click once more, and transform them as we go around. And as I mentioned before, if you have auto select turned on, then you won't need to hold down Command when you select your different objects. It's just the way that I prefer to do it so I don't accidentally select things. So we're just going to go around all of these. And then once we've done the last one, hit enter, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see our pattern. Now the nice thing about keeping this, if we look across to our layers in a separate group, is that we can apply color changes specifically to that layer, and we can use the adjustment layers for that. So we're applying a color change specifically to that group. So I'm going to come down to my adjustment layers down here at the bottom, click on there, and we'll go to a hue saturation adjustment layer. And I'm going to use this option here by right clicking, and I'm going to create a clipping mask. And what that means is it's restricting, you can see this arrow pointing towards group one, any color changes I do just to that layer below. So you can see now if I darken those layers or lighten them, basically it's only applying it to that layer below. So I can change the color here, I can change the saturation, I can change the brightness, and we've got complete control over the color that we have in that background layer. So this is our layer setup. We have the group one copy, which is locked. We need to change that again. We'll need to click on it and unlock it. We've got our hue saturation adjustment layer, which has the clipping mask turned on, which means it's only affecting that layer behind. And then we have our background image here as well. So hopefully this is a useful overview of how to create shapes in this way in Adobe Photoshop. If you have any questions, then please do leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on the next tutorial.